Hello and welcome to the Nick Anderson Show. Tonight we have a very special episode. I have an actual sommelier that is going to come and talk about wine, help you learn how to pick out what wine to drink in your stores, in all kinds of different situations. And I'm so excited to have Allison from Wonderland Wines here tonight. She has actually offered, if you have questions about what wine to drink with what you are eating, with a special occasion, things like that, she has offered that you can DM her on Instagram absolutely for free and just ask her about what kind of wine you should have. So I'm going to put her Instagram handle right here. DM her, follow her on Instagram, look through her pictures and things as you're watching this fantastic interview with Wonderland Wines. It's nice to see you again, Allison. For viewers, yeah. I met Allison at a wedding. We were both sitting at the head table and sitting next to each other and got to talking and found out that she is a small business owner just like I am. So thought I'd have her on the show and kind of talk about what her small business is all about. So to start, you are a sommelier, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, the American, which is how I say it, sommelier.
Okay. So what is a sommelier?
Yeah, so it has a long history, what the sommelier title is. Obviously, being a French word, it started in France.
Okay.
And it was kind of just this adaptive role that there was a lot of fine restaurants that had all these beautiful French cellars. And so there was typically someone that was considered the cellar master, and that was someone who knew where all the bottles were, knew what all the years or vintages were, and kind of controlled all that. And then kind of hand in hand, what happened was that since they knew that area so well, they then were going up to customers and being like, oh, you have to try this or you have to open this. And that's pretty much how the role came about. It was just someone who knew the wines and then started selling them to people while they were dining.
Cool. So then
that was the traditional role.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
That's how it all started.
And then how did you become interested in that profession?
Yeah, for me, so I started in a degree in hospitality. So my degree is hotel, restaurant, and tourism management. And just by being in that, you're kind of around wine, hospitality, all things that go hand in hand with a sommelier. Sure. So I got really into it, just started trying wines, and really found my passion there. And I think for me, I was actually underage at the time when I first started my interest because I was studying abroad. And so for me it was, it was legal. I was in a different country.
Yeah.
But it was the
I'm sure you started your research there.
Yes. It was all for my future career. Yeah. And so I kind of fell in love with it. I loved the idea of that somms can take anyone in any place, anywhere that they're eating, and they can suddenly transport them to another place via wine.
Sure.
And kind of as I was learning about somms and the traditional roles, which is still a traditional somm is in restaurants and selling wine in restaurants, I kind of then wanted to adapt that for me and what would work best for my life, which is mostly, wine education and teaching people about wine and wine tastings. And when I got into it, it was a lot of studying, tons of books, but then also a lot of wine drinking. So that kind of just kept it going and kind of keep that. So
if you're studying wine drinking, do you hit a certain point where you're like, I don't remember anything that I've been studying?
It depends on the seriousness of the tasting. Oh yeah, there's been tastings that's first, few. Oh, I have all my notes for those, and the next it's just enjoyment. But then most tastings, when I was learning, I had to spit it all out, which seems so odd. Sometimes I know my sister always had an issue with that. She's like, "Why are you wasting it?" I'm like, "I can't drink all of this."
Yeah, it makes sense though, because otherwise your notes would start out really nice, and then all of a sudden you'd be like, "What the hell was I writing?"
Just writing little metaphors instead of actual aromas.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, and so then...
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, from that hospitality background, I then went to study to become a somm, which is through a program called Court of Master Sommelier. And so kind of becoming a lawyer you have to pass a certain test. Like you have to pass the bar to be a lawyer. You have to pass a somm test to become a somm, or just have the title.
Cool. And then I assume once you have that title, then you can, enter jobs in the profession and things like that.
Yep.
Otherwise, people who are going to be hiring sommeliers, know to look for that. And cool. That's awesome.
It's kind of one of those things that you don't need it. Like you can have just the knowledge, but it's just proof that you have the knowledge.
Sure. Yeah, love it. Yeah. Cool. So, so you have your own business now, right? So Wonderland Wines is your kind of business. So what do you do with having your own business? So you kind of mentioned that the traditional somm would be someone, in a restaurant that has knowledge of what the restaurant has and things like that. So with you having your own business, what do you do?
Yeah. So I started in restaurants. I did that. I did resorts. I kind of have done the full gambit now. But especially with COVID, it's kind of caused a lot of somms to adjust. And I had my business before COVID, but especially with COVID, I've had the extra time to do kind of what I'm looking to do. But
to do even more research.
Yes, to do so much research.
Just kidding.
Tastings galore. But I kind of knew that I didn't always want to be in restaurants, and I love the aspect of wine education with culture and travel. So my focus for my business is a focus more on wine travel, wines of regions, talking about those regions, and just kind of educating. I think one thing when I was originally becoming a somm that was frustrating was that there's this air of pretension around sommeliers, and that's just history, that they're kind of snooty or whatever, or typically males that are older. So I was like, I want to do something that has a little bit of a different focus and then also is super approachable. So for my brand, it's a focus on approachability and then the vast world of culture as it combines with wine and education. And just
I think that really comes across. At least on your Instagram posts and things, because I've never looked at any of those posts about different wines and things and thought oh, that's so pretentious. I really when I'm reading the posts, I'm like, oh, interesting. Or and we'll talk more about some of your posts later and some of the things you're doing. But I think that really comes across in your brand and what you're doing so far. So good job with that. And have you felt certain types of are there certain types of people that you feel put that stereotype of pretension around it and some people that don't? Or where does your experience with feeling that pretentiousness come into play?
For me, 100% I have felt it, especially being a young woman trying to do this. But when I was originally trying to learn about wine was where I felt it the most, because I didn't know anything, but I was trying to get more education. And so what I found very frustrating was that even though I was trying, there was people making me feel bad about my knowledge levels that I already had. And that I was just something I was like, if I ever do this, I want the person who has only ever drank Franzia to still learn something and be interested in what I have to say, because I didn't want to ostracize people. And that was probably the biggest part that I felt it. And I think as an industry, it's definitely changing now. You don't see as much of that because there are a lot more inclusive people going into this industry. But that's kind of how I felt it.
Well, that makes sense too, because I think what you're saying, you've locked onto a pretty big market, because you've got all these people that just are being super fancy with everything that they have to say, and then you've got a much bigger, broader market of people who have just drank Franzia or just grab a bottle based on price in the aisle, and you're helping all of those people, which in my mind is a way bigger market, learn and experience wine, which is pretty cool. There was a quote from Keith Urban. He was playing all of these bars around Nashville, and he was never getting signed, and he kept seeing all of these record label executives come in, and he asked them why haven't you signed me yet? And they said, you're too different from everyone else. It's going to be really hard for you at the beginning, but if you can get through this beginning, you're going to be the biggest country star there is. And then it kind of reminds me, I relate everything to music, but it reminds me of that, you're getting made to feel bad about not knowing this knowledge, but you're trying to help all of the people that, like you said, just drink Franz. I think that's super cool. Hey, it's me. I just wanted to interrupt for a quick second to say, if you're enjoying the Nick Anderson Show, please go to this website where you can support me, the band, and all the creative things that we do. It means a lot. Otherwise, if you don't want to support monetarily, it means the world to us if you share the show, share our content, listen to our content, whatever it is. Thank you. And let's get back to Wonderland Wines.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, that's 100% something I believe in.
Awesome. So some of your Instagram posts, I noticed you have been spending time at different wineries, or maybe it was just one winery. Like there's pictures of you crushing grapes, and things like that. So tell me about, like, was that one winery? Were you working at the winery? Were you helping make wine? What was that all about?
Yeah. So my goal for my own education is knowing all aspects of wine. So that means, how to make it, how to harvest it, all these things. And so a big part of that for me was going and learning how to make it firsthand. So from Minnesota, I haven't had that opportunity to, because we don't grow a lot of great wine here, sadly. So I actually went to one winery that was Elk Cove Vineyards, and this was my first. It's called a harvest experience, which is where you go for harvest, you help with all things actually in the winery. So I wasn't picking grapes necessarily, but I was, the second they all came in, it was making it from, a bundle of grapes to then wine. Okay. So I went to learn that entire process. It is the hardest manual labor I've ever done in my whole life. It's super difficult, but it's really, really rewarding. And it honestly, I knew a lot. And then I just, by doing it hands-on, I learned so much more, and I thought that was really important.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So did you?
It's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
It's
I can imagine
when you're tasting versus actually making it.
Sure. So what made you pick that specific winery to go learn at?
Yeah, so they are super reputable in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. So I love Oregon. I think it's a beautiful state. It's one of my favorite winemaking regions just because I love the wines. They're known for Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, and they're all just bright and beautiful wines. And so this winery, it has a rich history, makes high quality, delicious Pinot Noirs and Chardonnay, a couple of Rieslings, a few other things. But they're also family run, family owned. So I just really respected them, and I knew that they would give me a good experience. And then the assistant winemaker there, who was my main lead, was also female. And she kind of said, anything you want to learn, I'll do my best to teach you and give you as much as you're going to take. And so she was just great at training and doing all these things and motivating when I was exhausted.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really a great place.
Yeah, that sounds like literally the perfect spot for what you were trying. You had a person that was super open to help you learn everything, and that's awesome. That's really cool. And it sounds like you learned a lot and did a lot.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing, because I knew before that, I could tell you flavor components, I can tell you regions, I can tell you soil types, but I couldn't tell you exactly how you get the wine from this to barrel, and so that was what I learned, was just those little parts of the actual winemaking process and how every little step actually does change that final product.
Sure. So is your business based around Instagram? Are there parts that I'm missing, or is it Instagram and teaching and so you teach about wine and you do it? I feel like I'm missing something. Is there are you trying to gain followers? What is your total goal with this business? Yes, we're educating, but are you trying to get more and more followers to educate, or what's your goal as Wonderland Wines?
Yeah, right now it is my Instagram that I do private consulting tastings from. So I lead tastings at different hotels, private events, things like that, and that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. My website is coming up very, very soon, which will kind of highlights that more of what I do outside of Instagram. Cool. And then on top of that, wine travel guides is coming. But with COVID, it's taken a step back because people can't travel. So I can't really promote, hey, go to this region when that region is closed.
Sure.
So that's on hold, but that's going to be the main things.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So like I said, I like relate everything to music. So for me, it was like, well, maybe she's like trying to grow all these followers and then become like this brand. But I felt like there was more to it, and there was. I was missing the, like, you're doing these different types of tastings and travel guides and things like that. That's super cool. And yeah, I can imagine that type of stuff is put on hold with, being stuck inside and things like that. So
it's made everything harder. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So now we're going to get to the fun questions. These are the questions that I'm most excited about. And the first one, what is your favorite relatively inexpensive wine?
Yeah. My rule of thumb that I give people when they're like, oh, Allison, I like wine, but I only buy, these cheap wines that don't know anything, is I always say that there's a big difference in quality from a $10 wine to a $13 wine. So, and this is just my general rule of thumb. It's not always accurate. Sure. But generally across the board, the second you bump up your price point to like $3 more than your typical $10 bottle, you're already going like it's a huge jump in quality.
Very interesting.
But yeah, it is. And it's just kind of like the really mass-produced manipulated wines always tend to be like 10 and under. So you bump it up a little bit and you're going to be getting something that's a little more handmade. But things that I love that are cheaper, I drink a lot of a nice wine, but I can't afford it all the time. So I do have other ones. I like Gamay from Loire. So Gamay is the grape, and then from the region of Loire. That's amazing.
Okay. How do you spell that? Gamay?
Gamay. Gamay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Exactly.
And then
how it sounds.
There's some great right now coming out of New Zealand, which is known actually for a very cheap Sauvignon Blanc. There's some Pinot Noirs coming out of there that are affordable and really good. And what else do I like? I love Cava. Those Pinot Noirs.
Yeah.
I can't think of a brand off the top of my head right now. Withers Hill is one of them.
Okay.
They make rosés too. But pretty much if you ask, hey, do you have a New Zealand Pinot Noir, you'll kind of be set.
Okay, cool.
And then what else do I love Cava. So Cava is a sparkling that's made in Spain that is always like very, very affordable and delicious. It's so good. I always say if you're going to go for the Corbel and just do that one step up, get a Cava. It's going to be a similar price point, but much higher in quality.
Is that what you had Maggie buy for New Year's?
Yeah, it is. 100%.
Okay, so I've had that one, and that one was good, because she came over and she's like, yeah, I asked, it was very good. She's like, I asked Allison what's a good, like, sparkling wine that we could drink a lot of and not have a massive hangover. I was like, perfect.
Inexpensive, but it's better, it's much, much better and less manipulated than the Corbel or the Andre. So,
awesome. Yeah. So what do you mean when you say manipulated?
Yeah. So in winemaking, to make wine is actually a natural thing. You put grapes in a bucket, they'll actually naturally turn to wine. Okay. But obviously that's super volatile. And so with science, a lot of places have learned how to like control that and manage it to get aromas that you want and not have all the bad bacteria happen. But then, of course, science always going too far. They can now make things that taste exactly like wine, have grapes in them, but they have so many chemicals and flavors added and things like that, that it's not actually like a real wine product anymore. It has grapes, but it's got a lot of other things too. So that's like, for example, Apothic Red. Apothic Red is a wine.
Oh no, that's my favorite one. What are you gonna tell me?
Sorry. I got it. They push out so much wine and they make so much, but there's a lot of other things in there like color additives and things to like give it the flavor that it's not actually the flavor coming from the grapes.
Okay.
So again, that's one of those things. Like, I'm sorry. I just ruined your day.
That was the wine that I sprung for if I was feeling spendy. I was like, I can afford the Apothic Red, but get some Apothic. No more.
And see, that's one of the things. They do a great job at branding that it seems to be the better wine. It's not always the better choice compared to even actually some things that are comparable prices. Yeah.
Sure. I'm a sucker for branding and stuff, so.
Oh,
I mean,
me
I think
too.
most people are, but yeah. Okay.
Oh, you put a nice label on it, I'll try it no matter what. I'll decide later if I like it, but I'm like, ooh, super cute. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. Have you ever had Aldi wine?
I haven't.
You
I haven't had it.
It's $2.99. And I'm sure that it is not real, or I'm sure you'd like spit it out, but
I would wonder. I'm gonna have to go and see, because I mean, Aldi surprises me a lot with a lot of their things. I love Aldi personally. I think it's great. I go there for my cheeses all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have to see, because like when I was living in Spain, they had the $2 chuck, the $2 that's like, it was in a paper container, and that was good. It was before I was in Somm, so I could be wrong, but I remember it being really good. So I don't know. I have to try it.
Yeah, so my favorite one is I'm kind of a Aldi wine expert, so.
Okay, nice.
The Winking Owl Merlot is the best one.
Ooh, that's your favorite. Okay.
But if you drink a whole bottle, it will give you a terrible hangover. It's not good. It's not good wine. It's kind of like a lot of times I'll drink a nice like $15 bottle of wine, and then I'll share. I won't drink the whole bottle. I'll share.
I wouldn't judge if it was whole.
And then I'll drink a whole bottle of the Winking Owl. After I've had like my taste buds satisfied with good wine, then you switch to the $3 bottle. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I do the same thing with my nice wines. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to try it and tell me what you think.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's probably similar to a lot of those mass-produced winemaking methods, but I don't know. I'll have to see.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah.
Good or bad. Of course, you've already ruined my favorite wine, so you might as well ruin Winking Owl for me.
It's the worst. So. It's even worse than a Popnik. Kidding, obviously.
Nice. Okay, so out of the different types of wine, like Pinot and Cab, what is your favorite type of wine to drink? Or does it just totally depend on day and what you're eating and things like that?
Yeah, it's the hardest question, because it honestly totally depends on mood, weather, cuisine, but hands down, like, I do have one favorite, and it's champagne. So it's champagne from France. Of course, I can't be drinking that all the time because it's one of the most expensive wines in the world. Yeah. So that is special occasions. But if there was, they said, Allison, you can only drink one thing, that would be it. Mostly because it's sensational, amazing, pairs with all foods, great for every occasion, like never goes out of style type thing. But on a normal day, I probably drink more reds than I do whites, personally. Especially in Minnesota because it's cold. And so cold wines, I'm sometimes like, I could rather go for a red. And I love Pinot Noirs. I don't drink as much like deep dark reds anymore, even though I still love them. It's kind of more lighter style red. It's like Pinot Noir, Gamay, some weird ones, Trousseau, things like that.
Cool. Awesome. And then do you have you kind of answered this. So your favorite type of wine is champagne, but do you have a favorite brand? Like if I was going to go out to the store and buy your favorite champagne or wine, or like what exactly would I buy?
Well, I'm going to say you should go buy Ruinart, which is like the oldest champagne house and one of the most expensive. But I've actually never had it, so I can't even say that that's my top. But it's my bucket list wine. It's the oldest champagne house. So many somms have had it. Like every single time they have it, it's like that wine moment that, whether you're a sneakerhead and you get your favorite sneaker, or, whatever your interest is. For a wine person, you get to try that, and it's like, and I've never had it, but I will one day. I will.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. And then, is there anything else that you want people that are watching to know about you or your business, or anything that I missed to talk about that, you want to, get in there?
Yeah, pretty much just that, a lot of people don't realize that there are people that are here for a service to help you with wine. You know, a lot of the time people get nervous about going into liquor stores and just grab the first thing they see because they're just a little overwhelmed by the shelves and they're like, I don't even know what this wine is. I can't read labels. And so kind of what I'm here for and what I love to do is I just love to make people more comfortable. You know, it's those people that aren't sure and need, you know, a little help or like know that they're making this for dinner and like, well, I don't know what wine to pair. It's like, that's where I come in, and I'm always happy to any questions that anyone has. Just DM me, you know, message me, and I love it. I love to recommend wine. I love to tell people about it, and I love hearing that people have a good experience because of wine.
Awesome. Well, we'll put your Instagram handle down here, and we'll probably have it for most of the show. But yeah, go and follow Allison, Wonderland.wines. That's the Instagram, correct?
Yep.
And yeah, awesome. We will definitely see if we can get some viewers to DM you and, you know, see what they can.
I love it.
Foods and things like that. So.
No, thanks so much for having me on. When you said that you were doing this, I was like, that is super awesome. And what a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I try to, you know, just get all the cool people that I know to, you know, talk about how cool they are, and it seems like it's a fun show. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show too. So
of course. Yeah, I've used this as an excuse to open up some wine because I said if I'm talking about it, I can have some. So
I was going to, but I was like, I don't know if I should, and plus I only have boxed wine right now, and I was like, I don't really want to drink that in front of us.
Like I said, I wouldn't have judged you, not at all. But
well, I didn't know that until now, so now you know I can drink my boxed wine judge free.
Anytime, anytime.
Nice. Thank you so much for watching the Nick Anderson Show tonight. As Allison very kindly offered, please DM her, follow her on Instagram. You can do it for whatever holiday's coming up or for your dinner that's coming up. Just Instagram, DM her, and ask like, hey, Allison, I got this going on. What kind of wine should I drink? And she'd love that. Thanks a huge bunch to Wonderland Wines for coming on their show tonight. And if you enjoyed the Nick Anderson Show, please subscribe below or right here and watch more videos. Share our content. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.